produce energy. So the function of this is the structure of the cell. So we are describing the structure of the cell. So what this mitochondria do is to produce energy. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So if they ask you where is energy produced in the cell, the energy produced in the cell is called the mitochondria, and that is our mitochondria. They produce energy required by the body. Now we have the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane is together as the plasma membrane is when you combine nucleoplasms and cytoplasms. And nucleoplasms we are talking about is everything inside the cell membrane of the nucleus. So everything inside this molecule is called the nucleoplasms. Why? Everything inside this cell membrane is called the plasma membrane. So our cell membrane is this yellow structure here. This yellow structures there. That is our cell membrane. And this cell membrane perform many functions. One, they are semi-permeable membrane which are made up of phospholipid bilayer. So they allow migration in and out inside the cytoplasms. So the cell membrane, they are semi-permeable, meaning that they allow selective reabsorption. They allow molecules and ions to migrate and live throughout the cell membrane. So it's also performing the function of separating a cell from its own cell. So the cell membrane separates the cell from each other cell in the environment. Okay, now we have the ribosomes. So what is the function of the ribosomes? The ribosomes helps in synthesis of protein. The ribosomes helps in synthesis of protein. So they perform a very good function in synthesis of protein. Now we have the endoplasmic reticulum, and in the endoplasmic reticulum we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So look at our endoplasmic reticulum. So in our endoplasmic reticulum we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and we have the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So what's the difference between the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and the rough endoplasmic reticulum? So the rough endoplasmic reticulum is when ribosomes is banded to it. So look at our ribosomes. So whenever this molecule is bounded to this molecule here, we call it rough endoplasmic reticulum. So as you can observe, this is our smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and in our smooth endoplasmic reticulum there is nothing bounding to this. There is no ribosomes bounding to that. But in the rough endoplasmic reticulum, there is ribosomes. That right structures there are ribosomes bounded to the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So that is the difference. So since in the rough endoplasmic reticulum there is ribosome bounded to it, so their function will be different. So what is the function of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and what is the function of the rough endoplasmic reticulum? The smooth endoplasmic reticulum perform the function of gluconeogenesis, or in other words, producing glucose from non-glucose molecules. So if they ask you what is the function of smooth endoplasmic reticulum, one of the function of smooth endoplasmic reticulum is that it produces glucose from gluconeogenesis. So what is gluconeogenesis? So the function of this smooth endoplasmic reticulum is to produce glucose from gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is producing glucose from non-glucose molecule or from non-carbohydrate molecules. So that is gluconeogenesis. How does this perform this function? Is that it has glucose 6-phosphatase in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So this glucose 6-phosphate removes the phosphates now to form glucose. So what is the function of the rough endoplasmic reticulum? The rough endoplasmic reticulum perform a function of synthesizing protein. So when they bind together with the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, they help in synthesizing protein. So if they ask you the function of rough endoplasmic reticulum, it helps in the synthesis of protein. So let's talk about the lysosomes. So what is the function of the lysosomes? This structure here. The lysosomes perform a good function of destroying old and weakened cells. So the lysosomes has enzyme that destroys cells. So these cells they destroy is the cells that are old and weak. So cells destroyed by lysosomes are weakened or old cells. So why are they destroying these cells? They are destroying these cells in order to what? Place new area for another growth of cells. So they perform new function. One, destroying cells, and two, especially the old and weakened cell. Then two is they produce or clear new areas for the growth of new cells. So what is the function of the perissosomes? The perissosomes perform a very good structure. So what is this structure? Look at the perissosomes here. The perissosomes is perform a very good structure function. So what is the function? It's fat. Catabolism means breaking down. So when I said catabolism, I'm breaking down. When I said anabolism, I'm building up. So it's catabolize fats. It breaks down fats during the fasting period. So whenever you're fasting, the perisosome breaks down fat. Now the vacuole is usually found later. The vacuole is not usually found in animal cells. When it is found, it is usually small. Look at the vacuole. So when it is found, it is usually small. This vacuole is usually found in plants, and we're going to discuss that when we are talking about the plants. So the vacuole just play a role of synthesizing some organelles in the body. Now, let's talk about the cytoplasms. So, what do the cytoplasms do? The cytoplasms perform a very good function. Look at the cytoplasms. The cytoplasms is the jelly-like fluid of the cell. So everything inside the cytoplasms, everything inside the cell membrane, everything inside here is called the cytoplasms. So everything inside here is called the cytoplasms. So therefore, the cytoplasms is now divided into two, which is the cytosol and the organelles. So the cytosol is the jelly-like fluid of the cell. So that jelly-like fluid, that liquid fluid of the cell is called the cytoplasms. Why the organelles? So organelles are all these things you're seeing here, both the nucleus, both the Golgi apparatus, both the chromatins, both the nucleus, both the mitochondria, everything inside the cell that's perform a specific function are called organelles. So cytoplasms is divided into two, which is the cytosol and the organelles. So the cytosol is the jelly-like fluid of the cell, while organelles are all these structures you are seeing inside the cell that perform a specific role. Example, the mitochondria produce energy, nucleus contains DNA for hereditary, so many things. Lysosomes destroy the cell. So many things. So I hope you have grabbed something in this video. Please, okay, let's talk about the nucleus. The nucleus is also example of the organelles, one of the largest organelles in the body. So the nucleus has these things, the nuclear membrane. So this is called the nuclear membrane. This structure here is called the nuclear membrane. What does this nuclear membrane do? The nuclear membrane has openings. Look at the openings here. It has opening for migration of ion, for exchange of materials between the nucleus and the cytoplasms. That is the function of that pore in the nuclear membrane. Now the nucleus also has this structure called nucleolus. The nucleolus is smaller than the nucleus, and it occupies 25% of the mass of the nucleus, and it is more darker. As you can see, it is more darker than the nucleus itself. So the nucleolus perform a good function in the body. So inside this nucleus, we also have the chromatin. So what does this chromatin do? This chromatin, during cell division, it elongates. So the chromatin, just what you have to grab about this chromatin is the chromatin contains these chromosomes. Chromatin has these chromosomes. During the cell division, it's extend, and when it's extend, it now form the chromosomes. Just what you have to take home is the chromatins contains the chromosomes. So I hope everything that I've just said makes sense to you. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and okay, see you next time.